Please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
First, let's talk about the top story from the NCLAT. The National Company Law Appellate Tribunal delivered a massive blow to 10 cement companies today. Now, the NCLAT dismissed cement companies' plea that had challenged the Competition Commission's order to impose a fine of 6,300 crore rupees on them for allegedly creating a cartel. Ashmit Kumar has been tracking the story from day one as he's here with the details. Ashmit, this is, of course, the biggest ever penalty imposed by the CCI, and now with the NCLAT too upholding the order, what implication could this order have on cement companies?
Well, there are, of course, various implications. As you correctly pointed out, the NCLAT has upheld the largest ever penalty that had been imposed by the CCI. The penalty is to the tune of 6,300 crore rupees spread across 11 different companies. Now, other than the obvious impact on the financials of the cement companies, let's also keep in mind that there are some other implications as well. For one, number one, of course, is that as far as the CCI's allegations, CCI's charge essentially was that they had artificially inflated their prices by lowering the production and acting in concert with each other. Now, if that has been upheld by the NCLAT, now one has to wait and watch whether real estate companies could perhaps seek damage in trying to remedy the situation. The real estate companies could sue these cement companies for artificially hiking of prices. That's something we'll have to watch out for. Another implication is that as of right now, the penalty that has been imposed has been 50% of their annual profits of financial year 10. Now, there has been a huge amount of debate on what is the principle that guides CCI's discretion in deciding what quantum of that penalty. Should it be 50% of the profits? Should it be 80% of the profits? So that's another question that perhaps will need more clarity once the NCLAT order is out. One will also have to watch out for players such as Binani. They are also facing heavy penalties. And keep in mind that Binani Cement is already undergoing resolution. So one will have to see what such a penalty, bearing, if any, if it has on the resolution process, and if at all the dues payable to the Competition Commission in light of this penalty will take precedence over the resolution proceeding. So clearly, a number of questions that need to be answered, but for now, a definite setback coming in for the cement companies. But let's keep in mind that this is an order that has been passed by the appellate tribunal. We spoke to counsels for cement companies, and they've confirmed to us that this order will be challenged before the apex court as well. Back to you.
All right, Ashmit, appreciate you joining us. That's our colleague Ashmit Kumar taking us through the details of what the NCLAT has had to say on the matter of cement cartlisation. Joining us now to take this discussion forward is with us the former chairman of the Competition Commission of India, Mr. Dhanendra Kumar. Also with us is Vaibhav Ghaggar, advocate CCI and managing partner at GNP Law. Gentlemen, appreciate you joining us. Mr. Kumar, if I could start by asking you, sir, I would imagine that this is a bittersweet moment for you as the former CCI chief. I call it bittersweet because, this matter has been going back and forth since 2010. Even if you take a look at how it's progressed at the NCLAT, the judgment in this matter has been reserved since October of last year. It may have gone in favor of the Competition Commission of India, but it's been a long time coming.
You are right, Shireen. This matter had been filed even when I was the chairman CCI. This is a sweet moment for us, you are right, not only because I was earlier chairman of CCI, but it's a very significant order, NCLAT, today, because cement is a sector which impacts the common consumers, which impacts the construction industry, which is hugely important for the Indian economy. Now, there has been a lot of allegations in the past about cartlisation in this sector. It had been decided. It was remanded back by the Competition Appellate Tribunal at that time compared to CCI. Even after the remand, they investigated and they found that, yes, there was indeed cartlisation, as evident from the minutes of the association and from the coordinated movement of the prices and the dispatch of cement and so on. So after all this, the CCI still upheld their earlier order imposing penalty of 6,300 crores. And this was the biggest penalty ever. And this order has been upheld by NCLAT. In my view, this should send the right signal among companies not to try and cartelize in any manner. And I think generally for the building industry as a whole, and for the consumers also, it's very, very important, not only from the CCI viewpoint that they have been vindicated in their early investigation.
Well, the matter is not over yet, sir. As we've already heard from cement companies, they intend to appeal and take this to the Supreme Court as is expected. But Vaibhav, let me ask you about the implications. We just heard from the former CCI chief on how this sets the precedent in a lot of ways when it comes to matters related to competition law. But let's talk about real estate companies, because that was the point that Mr. Kumar raised now. Can real estate companies claim damages in light of this order, of course, pending appeal?
Absolutely. So I think that's going to be a very significant issue that people are going to be looking at, because even if the cement companies do appeal in the Supreme Court, there are two parts to this order. One is going to be the penalty amount. The other is going to be the cease and desist amount issue, which means that if they do not get a stay on the entire order or the cease and desist part, then anybody who's directly affected because of this cartel and who had been prejudiced or injured because of the cartel is entitled to file for damages. And I would imagine that all real estate companies would be lining up and evaluating their issues on this one very, very seriously. So it's going to be an interesting next step. The cement companies have already said they're going to go take it to the Supreme Court. Depends on how the Supreme Court looks at it, because to give a stay on the entire findings is going to be a tall task, to say the least.
Let me put that same question to you, Mr. Dhanendra Kumar. Do you believe that the prospects or the possibility of real estate companies claiming damages in light of what we've seen the NCLAT rule today, now, is the ground stronger?
Absolutely, Shireen. That is their right. In case they decide to go in for the compensation claims against cement companies, this would be their right. It all depends on the circumstances. It all depends on how they have been impacted. Globally, yes, they filed compensation claims. In many cases, they have won also. Now, all eyes are focused on the Supreme Court. What decision ultimately they have to take, yeah.
Let me also then ask you about the issue of the quantum of penalty, Mr. Kumar. As we just heard Ashmit point out there, that, this business of why is it 50% of annual profits? Why not 20%? Why not 80%? What is the rationale behind that? And that was the point that Weber was alluding to as well. Let's get your point of view on that, and whether this, in fact, opens up the possibility or the window of a possible penalty moving beyond 50% if this discretion is allowed by the NCLAT order.
Well, as far as the quantum of penalty is concerned, the penalty is levied keeping in mind various factors, both the attenuating and mitigating factors. In this case, the penalty which was levied, I think, at the rate of 0.5%, which was not very high. The CCI is also conscious of the fact that if the penalty is very high and that the companies finally wind up their affairs and they go into liquidation, it is not going to help. They want to maintain the competition in the market. They want to the companies to continue operations. They don't want them to wind up their affairs. So I think the CCI has taken a very balanced view. It's not very high, it's not very low. The signal is also to be sent to the market. So I think it was a very balanced and fair and just order.
Okay, balanced and just order. The implications now, as far as some candidates, particularly like Benani, who are facing IBC proceedings, Vaibhav, what will this now mean for somebody like that?
Sorry, I lost the voice in between. Could you say it again?
Yeah, I was just asking, Mr. Kumar, I'll come back to you with that question, but I was just trying to get a point of view from Vaibhav on what the implications could be for Benani, for instance, which is a candidate currently in the IBC process.
Well, a direct ramification, right? Because until the appeal was pending, and if there was a stay on the recovery of the amount, then everything gets stalled. Now that that air has been cleared, the CCI is definitely entitled to recover the amount of the penalty and the entire amount of the penalty, because earlier when they had gotten an interim order, Benani and the other cement companies, it was only up to 10% of the total penalty that had to be deposited at that point. Now the entire quantum is going to be liable to be recovered, and it will be part of the waterfall under 53 of the IBC. So that's going to have a very direct ramification. certainly. And there's going to be no hindrance in them getting the money if the same is available.
Okay, so that will have a direct implication for companies like Binani. Mr. Kumar, let me ask you a broader question now, sir. And I started by asking you about the fact that it's taken as long as it has to arrive at this conclusion in this matter with the NCLAT. The last competition law judgment from the NCLAT, I'm told, came about 5 months ago in February, sir. Do you believe that this decision to merge Compact with the NCLAT has perhaps been ill thought?
If you are talking in terms of the delay in NCLAT, I would not really agree with that, because they have decided the matter, I would say, fairly in a reasonable period of time. NCLAT is definitely inundated with a lot of cases. And they have limited strength, so they are doing their best. But I do feel that there is need of strengthening, and there is also need of allocating separate benches for this. CCI is a very important regulator. A lot of cases are going to come up, and jurisprudence is yet to evolve. But in this particular case, I don't think that they have taken far too long.
Okay, you don't believe it's taken far too long. A quick final question to the two of you. And Mr. Kumar, let me start by asking you, what kind of a precedent will this order now set, sir, not just for the cement sector, but outside of the cement sector? We talked about the implications for real estate companies. But what about oil companies, for instance? I mean, this business of oil marketing companies acting like a cartel has been discussed and debated for several years now. And every time, even from within the ruling dispensation, there have been murmurs of the OMCs held by the government acting as a cartel. What kind of a precedent does this order throw up, Mr. Kumar, for other sectors?
Very important question. As far as the Indian economy is concerned, CCI as a regulator is relatively new. And Indian economy is, everyone believes, generally beset with a lot of embedded cartels in different sectors. Oil companies you mentioned, there are many others. Now, it should be a signal, and that's why I said that this quantum of penalty, 6,300 crores, is not too high. There has to be a signal. Now, that signal should go in the right quarters, that they should desist from entering into cartelized behavior, whether it is explicit or implicit. In associations they meet, they discuss, even otherwise they meet and discuss. Normally it goes undetected, and the associations are sometimes used as platforms for exchange of ideas and exchange of production figures, prices and so on. So all these things should come to an end, and at the end of the day the market should function fairly and competitively and in the interest of consumers. Now that signal is, I think, important. It's gone, I should go far and wide.
All right, that signal has gone far and wide. Would you agree, Vaibhav?
I agree, and just to add to that, according to me, the fact that this order has come out, it has reiterated what the CCI had done, shows that the regime has a lot of teeth. What had started happening over the past few years, and as was pointed out, it's a very new regime, is that there was a widespread belief that the CCI is a bit toothless, that there is nothing to worry about with respect to the CCI, that business was going to continue the way it was already being done in the country in the past. And that has been shaken. That to me is the biggest step forward. And this is globally one of the, larger fines. It's not just in India. In India, it's the highest, but $1 billion is one of the largest globally as well. And everybody, a lot of international players are also going to look at this and are going to look at it very, very carefully as to their practices in India. And are they in compliance with competition laws or not? I think that signal and that development is what is going to be very strong. Plus, of course, the jurisprudential issues, some of them would have been settled in. That's going to go a long way in knowing what's right and what's wrong for companies to follow later.
All right, so big moment for competition law.
No, one point,
yes, sir.
One point, Shireen,
Yes,
if I could.
Go ahead.
If I could, before you close, sorry. I wanted the floor for half a minute, only to point out that the company should try and use the window of going in for leniency, which has been done in many cases, and whereby they can come forward
Yes,
and they can
very good
disclose possibilities of existence of these, and they can take advantage.
Good point, sir. And thank you very much for pointing that out. Dhanendra Kumar, the former CCI chief, and Vaibhav Gaggar, appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV18. We'll take a quick break, but don't go anywhere. A lot more is coming right up.